The morning sun barely touched the glass towers of Manhattan when Elena Rodriguez stepped off the subway at 59th Street. Her hands trembled slightly as she checked the address one more time on her phone. This was it. Her new job. Her last chance, really. The employment agency had warned her. Mr. Alexander Hart was difficult. No, that wasn't the word they used. They said he was demanding, precise, and had very high standards. Elena had smiled and nodded, thinking she could handle anything. After all, she'd worked 3 jobs at once to put herself through community college. She'd cleaned hotel rooms, waited tables, and still managed to take care of her younger sister after their parents died. One demanding boss? She could do this. The lobby of the building took her breath away. Marble floors so polished she could see her reflection. A doorman in a crisp uniform who looked her up and down before pointing toward the elevators. Elena clutched her bag tighter and walked across that vast, echoing space, feeling smaller with each step. The elevator climbed to the 42nd floor. The penthouse. Of course it was the penthouse. When the doors opened, they revealed a private hallway with just one door. Elena knocked twice, her heart hammering. A man opened it. Tall, maybe 6 feet, with dark hair cut precisely and eyes that seemed to look right through her. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than she made in 3 months. He didn't smile, didn't offer his hand. Just stepped aside. You're the new housekeeper, he said. Not a question. A statement. Yes, sir. Elena Rodriguez. I'm very happy to. The agency sent your file. You start at 7. You leave at 3. There's a list on the kitchen counter. Follow it exactly. He was already walking away, pulling his phone from his pocket. Don't move anything from where it belongs. Don't use scented cleaning products. Don't play music while you work. Elena followed him into the apartment, trying not to stare. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. Everything was white. Gray or black, spotless, cold, beautiful in the way a museum is beautiful. A place you look at but don't touch. The previous housekeeper lasted 15 years, he continued, not looking at her. She retired. Try to maintain her standards. Of course, Mr. Hart. I'll do my best to... Alexander. He finally looked at her, and his eyes were ice blue, empty. Just Alexander when we're here. Save the formalities for when I have guests, which is rare. He handed her a key card and walked toward the door. It was 7:15 in the morning. You're leaving? Elena asked before she could stop herself. He paused, one hand on the door. I'm late for a meeting. The list is comprehensive. If you have questions, text the number on the letterhead. Don't call. And then he was gone. Elena stood in the middle of that vast, silent apartment and felt terribly alone. The list wasn't comprehensive. It was a novel. 3 pages, single-spaced, detailing everything from the exact way to arrange the throw pillows on the sofa to the specific temperature the thermostat should maintain. Windows cleaned twice weekly. Hardwood floors treated with a particular oil once a month. Fresh flowers in the entryway, but only white roses or orchids. Stems cut at a 45-degree angle. Elena got to work. By noon, her back ached, and her hands were raw from cleaning solutions. But the apartment gleamed. She'd followed every instruction perfectly, checked each item off the list. She was folding his laundry when she noticed the shirts. Expensive, obviously. She folded them the way the list specified, pressing each crease with care. She left at 3, exhausted but satisfied. She'd done good work. He'd see that. The next morning, there was a note on the kitchen counter. The shirts are folded incorrectly. The crease should be exactly 3 inches from the collar, not 2.5. Pay attention to details, no greeting, no signature. Just that, Elena felt something twist in her stomach. She'd measured. She'd been so careful. She checked the list again, and yes, it said 3 inches. She must have gotten tired, made a mistake. Okay, she could fix this. She'd be more careful. The notes kept coming. The coffee is too weak. Use 2 scoops, not 1.5. The books on the shelf are out of order. They're organized by publication date, not alphabetically. There's a water spot on the bathroom mirror. Unacceptable. Every day, a new note. Every day, Elena tried harder. She started arriving 15 minutes early to double-check everything. She brought her own measuring tape to ensure the pillows were spaced exactly right. She researched the proper way to care for orchids after he left a note saying the flowers looked droopy, but nothing was ever good enough. 2 weeks in, Elena saw him for the second time. She was in the kitchen, preparing his breakfast as the list specified. Egg white omelet, dry toast, black coffee, fresh berries on the side. He walked in wearing gym clothes, hair damp from a shower. He poured himself coffee, took one sip, and set it down. "Too strong today," he said without looking at her. Elena's hand stilled on the cutting board. "I used 2 scoops like you asked. The beans are different. Adjust accordingly." He picked up a tablet from the counter and scrolled through it. The living room windows have streaks. "I cleaned them yesterday. Then cleaned them again." Something in Elena's chest tightened. She'd been up until midnight helping her sister study for midterms over video chat. She'd skipped breakfast to afford the special cleaning solution he preferred. She'd done everything right, and it still wasn't enough. "Is there anything I'm doing correctly?" The words slipped out before she could stop them. Alexander looked up from his tablet. Really looked at her for the first time since that first day. His expression didn't change. "If you were doing everything correctly, I wouldn't need to leave notes." He set the tablet down. "If you can't handle the job, the agency can send someone else." He left without touching his breakfast. Elena stared at the perfectly prepared food, her vision blurring slightly. She blinked hard. No, she needed this job. The pay was double what she'd made before, and her sister's tuition was due next month. She could handle a harsh boss. She'd handled worse. She cleaned the windows until they sparkled. The weeks blurred together. Elena learned to anticipate his complaints before he made them. She developed a system, checking and rechecking every detail. The apartment was always perfect. She made sure of it, but Alexander Hart remained cold as winter. He never thanked her. Never acknowledged when something was done well. He just left notes when things were wrong, and silence when they were right. He walked past her like she was furniture. Sometimes he'd take calls in the apartment while she worked, his voice sharp and cutting as he brokered deals worth millions of dollars. He showed more warmth to his business partners than he did to her, and he didn't show them much. Elena started bringing small touches of life into the apartment. Not anything on his precious list, nothing he could complain about. But she bought fresh flowers with her own money when his orchids died, replacing them before he noticed. She opened the curtains to let sunlight in. She hummed old songs her mother used to sing while she worked. It made the cold space feel a little less lonely. One afternoon, Elena was in the service hallway taking her lunch break. She sat on the floor eating a sandwich she'd packed from home when her phone rang. "Her sister, how'd the exam go?" Elena asked, warmth flooding her voice. "I don't know. I think I failed the calculus section." Her sister's voice cracked. "Maybe I'm not smart enough for this. Maybe I should just, hey, no. Listen to me." Elena leaned her head back against the wall. "You are brilliant. Remember when you were 8 and you taught yourself piano from YouTube videos? Remember when you got that scholarship? One bad test doesn't change who you are." "I'm just so tired, Elena, and I know how hard you're working to help me, and I feel like I'm wasting your money." "You're not wasting anything. You're investing in your future. Our future." Elena smiled even though her sister couldn't see it. "Take a breath. Get some sleep. Tomorrow you'll see things more clearly. I promise." They talked for a few more minutes. Elena's voice soft and encouraging until her sister finally laughed at something. That sound made everything worth it. Every harsh note from Alexander, every aching muscle, every skipped meal. Her sister's laugh made it all worthwhile. Elena ended the call and sat there for a moment, letting herself feel tired. Just for a moment. Does she call often? Elena's heart stopped. She scrambled to her feet, turning to find Alexander standing at the end of the hallway. How long had he been there? How much had he heard? "I'm sorry, I was on my break. I didn't think." "Your sister?" he asked, and his voice was different somehow. Quieter. Elena nodded, clutching her phone. "She's in college." "I'm sorry if I was too loud. I'll make sure." "What's she studying?" The question caught her off guard. He'd never asked her anything personal. "Ever. Engineering," Elena said carefully. "She's really smart. Much smarter than me." Alexander was quiet for a long moment, just looking at her. Elena couldn't read his expression. Then he turned and walked away. "The bathroom needs restocking," he called over his shoulder. And just like that, he was back to being the cold, harsh man she knew. But that night, when Elena was putting away cleaning supplies, she found a note on the kitchen counter. For a moment, her stomach sank, waiting for another criticism. It said just 3 words. "Take an hour." The next day, her official break time on the list had been changed from 30 minutes to 60. Elena stared at that note for a long time, something strange and warm unfurling in her chest. It wasn't much. It wasn't kindness, not really. But it was something. The first small crack in the ice. She carefully folded the note and slipped it into her pocket, then got back to work. The apartment wouldn't clean itself, and tomorrow there would probably be 3 new complaints about things she'd done wrong. But for the first time since she'd started working for Alexander Hart, Elena allowed herself a small smile as she polished the windows until they gleamed in the fading afternoon light. The extra hour changed something subtle in the apartment. Elena couldn't quite name it, but she felt it in the air like the first hint of spring after a long winter. Alexander still left notes. He still barely spoke to her. But every now and then there were these tiny moments that made her wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was a real person underneath all that ice. Like the orchids. Elena had always loved plants. Her mother used to keep a small garden on their fire escape when she was young, tomatoes and herbs growing in mismatched pots. After her parents died, Elena couldn't bear to keep plants. It hurt too much remembering her mother's hands in the soil, but Alexander's penthouse had orchids. Expensive ones. White phalaenopsis in sleek ceramic pots placed throughout the apartment like sculptures. When Elena first started, they were thriving. By week 3, they were dying. She'd mentioned it once. Left a small note next to his coffee. The orchids need different care. I can help if you'd like. His response came the next day. Do whatever you think is necessary. So Elena did. She researched everything. Watched videos during her commute. Learned about humidity and light and the exact way to water them. She moved them to better spots. Misted them daily. Talked to them softly while she worked, the way her mother used to. Come on, beautiful. You can do this. Just a little water, just a little sun. 6 weeks later, the orchids bloomed. Every single one, erupting in cascades of white flowers that seemed to glow in the morning light. Elena was watering them when Alexander came home early one Tuesday afternoon. She didn't hear him at first, too focused on checking the roots of one particularly stubborn plant. They've never done that before, he said. Elena jumped, nearly dropping the watering can. Alexander stood in the doorway, briefcase in hand, staring at the orchids. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you come in. I'll just finish. How did you do it? He walked closer, and Elena noticed something different in his face. Not quite wonder, but close. Interest, maybe. They just needed attention, Elena said softly. The light was wrong where they were before, and they like humidity, so I've been misting them. The previous housekeeper never could keep them alive. He reached out, almost touching a white petal, then pulled his hand back. I kept buying new ones. These ones wanted to live. They just needed help. Alexander looked at her then, really looked, and Elena felt exposed somehow, like he was seeing past her uniform, past the role of housekeeper, right into something deeper. You're good at that, he said quietly, helping things live. Before Elena could respond, his phone rang. His face closed off immediately, that cold mask sliding back into place. He answered it and walked away, his voice sharp and businesslike. But the orchids kept blooming. The notes became less harsh after that. Not kind exactly. Alexander Hart didn't seem to know how to be kind, but different. Coffee is better today replaced coffee is wrong. Thank you for the dry cleaning appeared one morning, though it was crossed out and rewritten as dry cleaning received. Elena noticed he'd thanked her, then thought better of it, then apparently decided it was acceptable after all. She smiled at that note for longer than she should have. Spring arrived in New York, and with it came rain. Torrential, angry rain that flooded subway stations and turned streets into rivers. Elena's commute became a nightmare. One morning she arrived 20 minutes late, soaked to the bone, her shoes squelching with every step. Alexander was in the kitchen. At 7:20 a.m., he was never home at 7:20 a.m. I'm so sorry, Elena said immediately, water dripping onto his perfect floors. The subway was delayed and I ran from the station, but you took the subway? In this weather? I always take the subway. He stared at her like she'd said something incomprehensible. Where do you live? Sunset Park, Brooklyn. That's an hour and a half in good weather. He was still staring and Elena couldn't read his expression. Anger, concern? Why didn't you tell me? Tell you what? That you were traveling that far. He pulled out his phone, typed something rapidly. My driver will pick you up tomorrow morning. 6:30. No, that's not necessary. I can't. It's not a request. Tardiness affects productivity. He said it in that cold way of his, but his eyes were different. Worried, maybe? The car will be there at 6:30. Be ready. He left before she could argue. The next morning, a black town car sat outside her building at exactly 6:30. The driver, an older man with kind eyes, opened the door for her. Miss Rodriguez. Mr. Hart sent me. Elena wanted to refuse. Wanted to maintain some independence, some boundary between her life and Alexander's. But it was pouring again, and the thought of another nightmare commute made her shoulders sag. She got in the car. It became routine. The driver picked her up every morning, dropped her off every afternoon. Alexander never mentioned it, never acknowledged the arrangement. But it was there, this unspoken thing between them. Elena tried to thank him once. He'd waved her off. I need you here on time. This solves a problem, always practical, always businesslike. But Elena was beginning to see through it. The shift happened slowly, like ice melting. Alexander started being home more often when she was there. Not hovering, not watching her work. Just present. He'd sit in the living room with his laptop while she cleaned the kitchen. Work in his office with the door open while she vacuumed the hallway. They started talking. Brief exchanges at first. How's your sister? He asked one day, not looking up from his computer. Good, she aced her calculus final. A pause. That's good. Another day. Is the water pressure okay in the guest bathroom? The shower seems weak. I'll call the building maintenance. Gone, no need. I already did. Small conversations. Normal conversations. The kind of exchanges between two people who existed in the same space and acknowledged each other's humanity. Elena learned things about him. He drank his coffee black because he'd grown up too poor to afford milk. He organized his books by publication date because his mother had been a librarian before she died. He hated scented products because his father had worked in a perfume factory and came home every night reeking of artificial flowers. Alexander learned things about her too. She hummed when she was happy. She bought flowers with her own money because they made the apartment feel alive. She talked to plants. She called her sister every day at noon, their voices soft and encouraging. One Friday afternoon, Elena was cleaning Alexander's office. He'd left for a meeting, but his laptop sat open on the desk, forgotten. As she dusted around it, she noticed what was on the screen. A scholarship database, engineering programs, full rides available. She stared at it for a long moment, something warm and confusing blooming in her chest. The next week, her sister called during lunch break, screaming with joy. She'd been nominated for a scholarship she hadn't even applied for. A full ride to finish her degree. Elena cried in the service hallway, overwhelmed with relief and gratitude and something else she didn't dare name. She never mentioned it to Alexander. He never mentioned it either. But she caught him watching her sometimes when he thought she wasn't looking. Something almost soft in his cold blue eyes. The breaking point came on a Wednesday. Elena had been feeling off all week. Dizzy, tired in a way that sleep didn't fix. She'd been skipping meals to send extra money to her sister. Just until the scholarship came through, just a little longer, she'd be fine. She wasn't fine. She was reaching up to dust the top shelf in the library when the world tilted sideways. Her vision went dark at the edges. She felt herself falling, felt her body go weightless. Then strong arms caught her. Alexander had been in his office, had seen her stumble through the open door. He caught her before she hit the ground. And the last thing Elena remembered before everything went black was his voice, sharp with fear. Elena, Elena, stay with me. She woke up on the leather sofa in the living room, a cool cloth on her forehead. Alexander was kneeling beside her, his phone pressed to his ear. Yes, she fainted. No, she's breathing. How quickly can you get here? A pause. Fine, yes, hurry. He noticed her eyes open. Don't try to sit up. I'm okay, Elena whispered, but her voice sounded far away. You're not okay. You collapsed. His hand was on her shoulder, keeping her down, and his touch was gentle in a way she'd never felt from him. When did you last eat? This morning. Don't lie to me. Elena closed her eyes. Yesterday, maybe. She heard him breathe in sharply. Why? Your sister has a scholarship now. A full one. His voice was hard, but his hand on her shoulder trembled slightly. You don't need to starve yourself anymore. Elena's eyes flew open. You? That was you? My doctor is coming. He'll be here in 15 minutes. Alexander stood abruptly, walking to the kitchen. She heard cabinets opening, the microwave beeping. He came back with soup. Expensive soup from the gourmet store down the street. Eat this slowly. I should go home. You're not going anywhere. He held out the bowl, and when she tried to take it, her hands shook too much. He sat beside her, took the spoon, and lifted it to her lips. Eat. Elena stared at him. This cold, harsh man who left cutting notes about misfolded shirts was feeding her soup on his expensive sofa, his hand steady while hers shook. Why did you do it? She asked softly. The scholarship. Your sister is brilliant. You said so yourself. Brilliant people shouldn't lose opportunities because of money. He kept his eyes on the soup. Now eat. Alexander, please. The word seemed to cost him something. Just eat. We can talk after, so she did. And he sat there beside her, making sure she finished every drop, his cold mask cracked wide open to show the person underneath. The doctor came, examined her, confirmed what they both knew. Malnutrition, dehydration, exhaustion. He prescribed rest, proper meals, and gave Alexander a look that said this was somehow his fault. After the doctor left, Alexander stood at the window looking out at the city. You're taking tomorrow off, he said. And you're eating lunch here every day from now on. I'll have my chef prepare extra. You don't have a chef. I'll hire one. Alexander, that's not necessary. He turned to face her, and the look in his eyes stole her breath. Raw, scared, completely unlike the cold businessman she'd met months ago. Do you have any idea what I felt when I saw you falling? His voice was rough. When I thought I might not catch you in time? Elena's heart hammered. I'm just your housekeeper. No. He crossed the room, kneeling beside the sofa again, his eyes level with hers. You're not. The air between them felt electric, dangerous, like standing at the edge of something she couldn't see. Then what am I? Elena whispered. Alexander opened his mouth, closed it. She watched him struggle with words he'd probably never said before. I don't know, he finally said. But you're not just anything. He stood quickly, putting distance between them. Get some rest. I'll drive you home later. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. He was back to being brusque, but it was armor now. She could see it. I want to. Elena lay on that expensive sofa, in that cold penthouse that felt a little warmer now, and realized with sudden clarity that she was in dangerous territory, because somewhere between the harsh notes and the rescued orchids, between the town car rides and the scholarship, she'd started seeing Alexander Hart not as a cold millionaire, but as a broken man trying to remember how to be human, and that was terrifying, because broken men were her weakness, and falling for her employer. That could destroy everything she'd worked so hard to build, but as she watched him move around the kitchen preparing tea with uncertain hands, she knew it was already too late. The ice was melting, and neither of them knew what would happen when it was completely gone. Elena didn't take the day off. She showed up the next morning at 7 sharp, despite Alexander's orders. The town car driver looked surprised to see her, but he didn't comment. He'd learned that Miss Rodriguez was stubborn. Alexander was in the kitchen when she arrived. He looked like he hadn't slept, still wearing yesterday's shirt, coffee growing cold in front of him. You're supposed to be resting, he said without looking up. I'm fine. You fainted yesterday, and today I'm better. Elena set down her bag, moving toward the coffee maker. I'll make fresh coffee. This has been sitting too long. His hand shot out, stopping her. Sit down, Alexander, and sit down. His voice was firm but not harsh. Please. That word again. Please. It still sounded foreign in his mouth, like a language he was just learning to speak. Elena sat. He poured the old coffee down the sink and started making a fresh pot. His movements were uncertain, unpracticed. This man who commanded boardrooms and managed millions was struggling to work a simple coffee maker. You don't know how to make coffee, do you? Elena asked softly. I know how to make coffee. He pressed 3 buttons and the machine beeped angrily. I just don't usually make it myself. Elena stood, moving beside him. Here, let me show you. She guided his hand to the right settings, standing so close she could smell his cologne. Something expensive and clean. He went very still when she touched him, like he'd forgotten what gentle contact felt like. There, she said softly. Now it'll brew properly. They stood there side by side, watching coffee drip into the pot. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like something else. Something new. I hired a nutritionist, Alexander said suddenly. She'll be preparing your meals. Breakfast and lunch every day. She starts Monday. You didn't have to do that. I know. He finally looked at her and his eyes were serious. But I'm going to anyway. You can argue or you can accept it. Either way, it's happening. Elena wanted to be angry, wanted to feel like he was overstepping, controlling her life. But when she looked at his face, she saw only concern. Real, genuine worry for her well-being. Why do you care so much? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Alexander's jaw tightened. He turned back to the coffee. I don't know. But they both knew that was a lie. The next few weeks were strange. Alexander was different. Still professional, still demanding in his work. But with Elena, something had shifted. He asked about her day, remembered her sister's name, left fresh fruit on the counter with a note that just said, "Eat this," and they talked. Real conversations, not just brief exchanges. One afternoon, Elena was dusting his bookshelf when she noticed a worn paperback tucked between expensive hardcovers. She pulled it out carefully. The Little Prince. My mother's, Alexander said from the doorway. Elena jumped. She hadn't heard him come in. It's the only thing I kept from before. Before? He walked into the room, taking the book from her hands with surprising gentleness. Before I had money? Before any of this? He opened it and Elena saw a woman's handwriting on the inside cover. To my Alexander, may you always see with your heart. Love, Mama. The words hung in the air between them. She died when I was 12, he continued, his voice flat in the way of someone trying not to feel. Cancer, we couldn't afford treatment. Not the kind that might have saved her. Elena's heart cracked. Alexander, I'm so sorry. My father blamed himself. Started drinking. Lost his job. We ended up on the streets for a while. He closed the book carefully, placing it back on the shelf. I was 14 when I promised myself I'd never be poor again. Never be helpless again. Is that why you're so... Elena trailed off, not sure how to finish. Cold? He said it for her, a bitter smile on his lips. I learned early that caring about things, about people, only leads to loss. Money doesn't leave. Success doesn't die, so I focused on that instead. But you're not really cold, Elena said softly. You just pretend to be. He looked at her then, really looked. And something in his expression made her breath catch. You make it very hard to pretend, he said quietly. Before Elena could respond, his phone rang. He answered it, his voice shifting back to that sharp, businesslike tone, but as he walked away, he glanced back at her, and the look in his eyes said everything his words couldn't. That evening, Elena was preparing to leave when she noticed Alexander standing at the window, his shoulders tight with tension. He'd been on the phone for hours, his voice getting progressively harsher. Bad day? She asked softly. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You could say that. Want to talk about it? Why would you want to listen to my problems? He turned to face her, genuine confusion on his face. You work for me. You're not my therapist. Maybe I'm your friend. The word seemed to stun him. He stared at her like she'd said something in a foreign language. I don't have friends, he said finally. Well, now you have one. Elena moved to the kitchen. Have you eaten today? I don't remember. That's a no. She opened the refrigerator, pulling out ingredients. Sit, I'm making you dinner. Elena, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. She looked at him over her shoulder. Sit down, Alexander. He sat. Elena made pasta. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti with garlic and olive oil, the way her mother used to make it. Comfort food. She could feel Alexander watching her as she worked, but it didn't make her nervous. It felt natural having him there. Tell me what happened, she said as she cooked. He was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly he started talking about a business deal that fell through, a partner who betrayed him, stealing clients and spreading lies. Years of work destroyed in a single afternoon. I should have seen it coming, he said bitterly. I knew he was ambitious. I just didn't think he'd betray you, Elena finished, setting a plate in front of him. That's because you're not like him. I'm exactly like him. Ruthless. Focused on success above everything. No. Elena sat across from him. You pretend to be like him, but you're the man who gives scholarships to strangers, who makes sure his housekeeper eats, Who keeps his mother's book like it's made of gold? Alexander stared at his plate. You see things that aren't there. I see things you try to hide. He took a bite of pasta and Elena watched emotions flicker across his face. Surprise, then something softer. Sadness, maybe, or longing. My mother used to make this, he said quietly, on Sundays when we could afford the ingredients. Elena's throat tightened. Did I make it right? It tastes like home. His voice was rough. I haven't felt that in 20 years. They ate in silence after that, but it was comfortable, easy. When he finished, Alexander just sat there, looking at his empty plate like it held answers to questions he didn't know how to ask. Thank you, he said finally, for this, for listening, he gestured vaguely, everything. That's what friends do. I'm not very good at being a friend. Elena smiled. You're learning. Something changed that night. The walls between them started crumbling faster, like a dam with too many cracks. Alexander started coming home for lunch. He'd claim it was to check on her, to make sure she was eating the meals the nutritionist prepared. But Elena noticed he always seemed to time it so they could eat together. They'd sit at the kitchen counter, talking about everything and nothing. Her sister's latest triumph, his latest business headache, the weather, the orchids. He started smiling. Small smiles at first, barely there, but real one rainy afternoon. Elena was struggling to reach a high shelf to store some dishes. Alexander appeared behind her, his hand steadying her elbow. Let me, he said, taking the dishes from her hands. But he didn't move away after. He stood there, close enough that Elena could feel the warmth of him, and something in the air shifted, charged, dangerous. Elena, he said softly, and her name in his voice sounded different, important. She turned, and they were face to face, inches apart. His eyes searched hers, asking a question she wasn't sure she should answer. This is a bad idea, she whispered. I know. I work for you. I know. It could complicate everything. I know. His hand came up, almost touching her face, then dropping. Tell me to stop. Stop what? You're not doing anything. I'm thinking about doing something. His eyes dropped to her lips. I'm thinking about it constantly. Elena's heart hammered. What are you thinking? He stepped back abruptly, running a hand through his hair. Something I have no right to think. You should go home early today. Alexander, please, Elena. He wouldn't look at her. Just go. She left, but she felt his eyes on her all the way to the door. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the look in his eyes. The way he'd said her name. The feeling of standing so close to him, like standing at the edge of a cliff. Her sister called late, excited about her scholarship, about her future. Elena listened, smiled, said all the right things, but her mind was elsewhere. You sound weird, her sister said. What's wrong? Nothing. I'm just tired. You're lying. You always get this tone when you're lying. A pause. Is it a guy? Elena's silence was answer enough. Oh my God, it is a guy. Who? Tell me everything. There's nothing to tell. It's complicated. Complicated how? Is he married? In jail? Wait, is he your boss? Elena's silence again spoke volumes. Elena Rodriguez. You're falling for your boss? The cold millionaire who left those mean notes? He's not cold. Not really. He's just, Elena sighed. He's broken and trying to fix himself. And I think I'm making it harder for him. Or maybe you're making it easier. Her sister's voice softened. Maybe he needs someone who sees past his walls. It's not that simple. Love never is. Who said anything about love? Elena protested weakly. Her sister laughed. You did, just now, with everything you didn't say. After they hung up, Elena lay in the dark, her sister's words echoing. Love. Was that what this was? This terrifying, wonderful, impossible feeling? She thought about Alexander's hands almost touching her face. His voice saying her name like a prayer. The way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. Like she was something precious and fragile and completely unexpected. And she knew. She was falling in love with Alexander Hart. The man who'd been cruel to her, who'd slowly revealed himself to be kind. Who was learning to be human again, one small gesture at a time. Who looked at her like she was the sun after years of living in darkness. It was the worst possible thing that could happen. And the best. The next morning, Elena arrived to find Alexander already in the kitchen. He looked like he hadn't slept either. "We need to talk," he said. Elena's heart sank. This was it. He was going to fire her, put distance between them, end this before it truly began. "Okay," she said softly. He took a breath, like he was about to jump off that same cliff she'd been standing at. "I can't do this anymore," he said, and Elena felt her heart crack. "I can't pretend. I can't keep acting like you're just my housekeeper, like you're just someone who works here. Alexander, let me finish, please." He moved closer, his eyes intense. "You came into my life and you changed everything. You made me remember what it felt like to care about something beyond money and success. You made me want to be better, be more. And I know this is inappropriate. I know I'm your employer and this crosses every line. But I need you to know that I—" The doorbell rang. They both froze. "Ignore it," Alexander said. The bell rang again. Insistent. Alexander cursed under his breath, moving to the door. Elena heard a woman's voice, sharp, familiar in the way of someone who belonged in his world. And just like that, reality came crashing back because she'd forgotten. In all those moments of warmth and connection, that Alexander Hart lived in a different world than her, a world of wealth and power and women who wore designer clothes and didn't scrub floors for a living. The woman who walked into the apartment was beautiful, elegant, everything. Elena wasn't. And the way she kissed Alexander's cheek, the way she touched his arm with casual ownership, made one thing very clear. The walls weren't the only thing standing between them. The woman was perfect. That was Elena's first thought. Perfect hair that fell in smooth waves. Perfect skin. Perfect designer dress that probably cost more than Elena made in 3 months. She moved through Alexander's apartment like she belonged there. Like she'd been there 1,000 times before. "Darling, you look terrible," the woman said, touching Alexander's face with manicured fingers. "Have you been sleeping?" Elena felt something twist in her chest. She took a step back, suddenly very aware of her simple clothes, her pulled-back hair, her work-worn hands. "Victoria," Alexander said, and his voice was tight. "What are you doing here? Your secretary said you canceled 3 meetings yesterday." "I was worried." Victoria's eyes slid to Elena, dismissive and quick. "You can go. We need privacy." Elena looked at Alexander, waiting for him to correct her. To say something, anything. He didn't. "Of course," Elena said quietly, grabbing her cleaning supplies. "I'll just be in the other room." She left before he could see her face, before he could see how much that silence cost her. From the hallway she could hear their voices. Victoria's laugh, light and practiced. Alexander's responses, clipped and professional. Elena told herself to focus on her work. Told herself it didn't matter. This was what she'd known all along. She was the housekeeper. Victoria was someone from his world, but her hand shook as she dusted shelves she'd already dusted twice. "She's new, isn't she?" Victoria's voice drifted from the living room. "The help, I mean. What happened to the old woman? The help. Like Elena was furniture. Like she was nothing." "She retired," Alexander said, his tone flat. "Well, this one seems young. Pretty too if you like that natural look." Victoria laughed. "Be careful, darling. You know how these girls can get ideas." Elena's face burned. She pressed her hands flat against the shelf, willing herself not to cry. "Victoria, that's enough. I'm just saying, you're vulnerable right now with the business situation. Some women see an opportunity. Elena isn't like that." "Oh, it's Elena now? How sweet. You've never called any of your staff by their first name before." Silence, heavy and painful. "I need you to leave," Alexander said finally. "What? Why?" "I just got here. I'm asking you to leave, please." "Alexander, what's gotten into you? Ever since that deal fell through, you've been acting so strange." "Is this about the merger?" "Because I told Daddy he should. This has nothing to do with your father's company." His voice was sharp now. "And we've had this conversation before. I'm not interested in merging our businesses, or anything else. You say that now, but you know we make sense together. We always have. Same background, same goals, same world," Alexander repeated softly. "Yes, I suppose we do live in the same world." Elena couldn't listen anymore. She grabbed her bag and walked quickly to the service entrance, the one she wasn't supposed to use when Alexander had guests. She didn't care. She needed to get out, needed to breathe, needed to remember who she was and who she wasn't. She was almost to the door when Alexander appeared. "Elena, wait," She didn't turn around. I should go. You have a guest. She's not a guest. She's leaving. It's fine, Alexander. Really, I understand. Understand what? He moved in front of her, blocking the door. What do you think you understand? Elena finally looked at him. That I forgot my place. That I let myself think things that were never going to happen. That Victoria is right. We're from different worlds. Victoria doesn't know anything. She knows enough. Elena's voice cracked despite her best efforts. She knows that girls like me get ideas. And she's right, I did. I got ideas way above where I belong. Don't say that. Alexander's hands clenched at his sides like he wanted to reach for her but didn't know if he should. You don't belong anywhere below anyone. I'm your housekeeper, Alexander. That's all I am. That's all I can be. Is that really what you think? Elena's eyes filled with tears. What else is there to think? You couldn't even tell her to stop talking about me like I was nothing. You just stood there. The words hit him like a physical blow. She saw it in his face. You're right, he said quietly. I should have defended you. I should have thrown her out the second she spoke about you that way. He stepped closer. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm not good at this. Any of this, it doesn't matter. It does matter. You matter. His voice was raw now, desperate. Elena, please look at me. She did, and the pain in his eyes matched her own. I was about to tell you something before she arrived, he said. Something important. Can I tell you now? Alexander, don't. It'll just make this harder. I don't care. He took a breath. I'm falling for you. I've been falling for you since the day I saw you encouraging your sister in that hallway. Maybe even before that. And I know it's impossible. I know every reason why we can't do this. But I can't keep pretending I don't feel it. Elena's heart stopped. You can't say things like that. Why not? Because I'm nobody. I clean your floors. I fold your clothes. Women like Victoria, they're the ones who belong with men like you. Victoria and I are the same in the worst possible ways. Alexander's voice was fierce now. We're both cold. Both obsessed with success. Both so scared of losing what we have that we forgot how to live. But you're everything we're not. You're warm and kind, and you see the good in broken things. I can't fix you, Alexander. I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm asking you to let me try to be better. For you. With you. Tears spilled down Elena's cheeks. This is crazy. I know, it could never work. I know. So why are we even talking about it? Because, Alexander said softly, finally reaching up to wipe away her tears with his thumb. For the first time in 20 years, I want something more than money. More than success. I want to be happy, and you make me happy. Elena closed her eyes, leaning into his touch despite everything. I'm scared. Me too. What if you wake up one day and realize I don't fit in your world? What if I've finally realized that my world was wrong and I need to build a new one? Before Elena could respond, Victoria's voice cut through the moment. How touching, they jumped apart. Victoria stood in the hallway, her expression cold and calculating. How long have you been standing there? Alexander demanded. Long enough? She looked at Elena with pure disdain. I knew it. I knew there was something going on. Does she know, Alexander? Does she know about the clause? Victoria, leave now. What clause? Elena asked, looking between them. Victoria smiled, sharp as a knife. Oh, he didn't tell you? How convenient. Tell her, Alexander. Tell her about your inheritance clause. Or should I? Alexander's face went pale. That has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with this. Victoria turned to Elena. Alexander's father left him a fortune, but with a condition. He has to marry someone from a pre-approved list of families, old money families. If he marries outside that list, he loses everything. Every penny. Elena felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Is that true? Alexander's silence was answer enough. So you see, Victoria continued sweetly, whatever fantasy he's been spinning, it can never be real. He can play house with the help all he wants, but when it comes time to actually commit, he'll choose his money. He always does. Get out, Alexander said, his voice deadly quiet. Gladly. But you know I'm right. Victoria grabbed her purse, pausing at the door. Enjoy your little romance while it lasts. But remember, darling, some of us were born for this world, and some of us just clean it. She left, and the silence she left behind was deafening. Elena stared at Alexander, waiting for him to deny it. To tell her Victoria was lying. It's true, he said finally. The clause is real. But Elena, how much? Her voice was hollow. What? How much money would you lose? He hesitated. Everything. The inheritance, the trust funds, the properties, everything my father built. Millions? Yes. Elena laughed, but it was broken. Of course. Of course there's something like this. Because why would anything ever be simple? It doesn't matter. I don't care about the money. You don't care about millions of dollars? About your father's legacy? Not if it means losing you. You barely know me. Elena's voice rose. We've known each other for a few months. You'd throw away your entire inheritance for someone you barely know? I know enough. I know you're the first person in years who's made me feel alive. Who's made me want to be better. That's not love, Alexander. That's loneliness. Don't tell me what I feel. And don't ask me to be responsible for you throwing away everything. Elena grabbed her bag again. I can't be that person. I won't be the reason you lose everything your father left you. My father was a drunk who died bitter and alone. I don't want his money if it means living the same way. You say that now, but what about in a year? 5 years? When you resent me for what you gave up? That won't happen. You can't know that. Elena's voice broke. And I can't take that risk. I can't be with someone knowing they sacrificed everything for me. That's not love. That's a debt I could never repay. I'm not asking you to repay anything. Yes, you are, whether you mean to or not. She moved to the door, and this time he didn't try to stop her. I need to think. I need space. I can't do this right now. Elena, please don't go like this. She paused at the door, not looking back. I'll finish out the week. Then I'm giving my notice. Don't do this. Don't run. I'm not running. I'm being realistic. Finally, she turned to face him, and the pain in her eyes mirrored his own. You live in a penthouse, Alexander. I live in a one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. You make business deals worth millions. I scrub toilets. This was never going to work, and we both knew it. We just got caught up in something that felt real but wasn't. It is real. Maybe. But real doesn't always mean right. She opened the door. Goodbye, Alexander. She left before he could see her completely fall apart. Elena cried on the train home. Cried in her apartment. Cried until her sister called, worried because she'd missed their daily check-in. What happened? Her sister demanded. Elena told her everything. The feelings, the almost confession, Victoria, the inheritance clause, all of it. So he's willing to give up millions for you and you're walking away? Her sister said when she finished. I have to. Why? Because it's too much. What if he regrets it? What if I'm not worth it? Elena, her sister's voice was gentle. You've spent your whole life thinking you're not enough. Not smart enough, not successful enough, not worthy enough. But maybe, just maybe you are. Maybe you're worth exactly what he thinks you're worth. Or maybe I'm being selfish. Maybe I should walk away so he doesn't have to choose. That's not your choice to make. It's his. Elena lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, her sister's words echoing. Was she running because she was being noble? Or because she was scared? She thought about Alexander's face when he said she made him happy. The way his whole world seemed to brighten when she walked into a room. The way he looked at her like she was something precious. But she also thought about Victoria's words. About the reality of their different worlds. About what would happen when the romance faded and all that was left was resentment. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Please don't quit. We'll figure this out. I promise. Elena stared at those words until they blurred. Then she turned off her phone and cried herself to sleep, knowing that some promises were impossible to keep. Elena didn't go back the next day. Or the day after that. She called the agency and told them she was sick, which wasn't entirely a lie. Her heart felt sick. Her whole body ached with the weight of walking away from something that had felt so right. Her sister came to visit on the third day, taking the train in from campus. She found Elena still in her pajamas, the apartment dark despite the afternoon sun outside. Okay, enough, her sister said, throwing open the curtains. You need to talk to him. There's nothing to say. There's everything to say. The man told you he loves you. He's willing to give up his fortune for you. And you're hiding in the dark eating ice cream for breakfast. It's 2 p.m. My point stands. Her sister sat beside her on the couch. You know what Mom would say if she were here? Elena's eyes filled with tears at the mention of their mother. She'd say that love doesn't come around often, and when it does, you don't run from it just because you're scared. I'm not just scared. I'm being realistic. No, you're being a coward. Her sister's voice was gentle despite the harsh words. And you're not a coward, Elena. You're the bravest person I know. You raised me when you were barely an adult yourself. You worked 3 jobs to put me through school. You've never run from anything hard in your entire life. So why are you running now? Because this is different. How? Because if I let myself love him and it doesn't work out, I don't know if I'll survive it. The truth came out in a broken whisper. I've lost so much already. Mom, Dad, every dream I ever had for myself. If I lose him too, her sister pulled her into a hug. But what if you don't lose him? What if this is the thing that finally works out? Elena cried into her sister's shoulder, all the pain and fear and hope she'd been holding back pouring out. You have to go back, her sister said softly, even if it's just to have a real conversation. Even if it's just to say goodbye properly. He deserves that. And so do you.